Welcome to another edition of Digital by Design. Today, I'm joined by a very good friend of mine, Daniel Vasquez. He has an office in Vista. Welcome.
Oh, correction. Oceanside.
Oh, that's right. Oceanside.
It's the same thing.
No, it's the same thing. It's
North County.
In North County, exactly.
I used to be in Vista, now I'm in Oceanside. Yes.
Yeah, because you used to own two offices, right?
Yes, one in Vista and one in Oceanside.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I got rid of those two and I have a new one.
In Oceanside.
In Oceanside.
There you go. That's awesome. And it's always been a CEREC office, right?
It's always been, this one's always been a CEREC office for 20, wow. That's crazy. 20 years now.
I'm telling you. You know, the thing about us is I saw you post a picture the other day, and I think you were like an assistant, and it was Throwback Thursday, and I saw that, and I was like, oh my God, that's when I met him.
I look young.
Now that was years ago, man. Like, I cannot believe how long ago, we've known each other now. I mean, like I said,
do you remember? Yeah, I think we should share that.
Yeah, no, it was a good story. I mean, I was just a driver, for my dad. Mm-hmm. So I used to go down. I think you were a Western Dental.
I was a Western Dental, and I was a dental assistant. I was a registered dental assistant, extended functions.
Yeah.
So I have the highest dental license in the dental assistant field. Yeah. Actually, my license number was 290. So I was one of the pioneers on that program in the state of California.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah.
But you actually were already a dentist in Mexico, and then you came. I
graduated in Mexico, and I came to U.S. and I have to go through the whole program, taking the national dental boards and state boards, and four of them.
But that went through Western Dental. Is that was that the first place you worked at, and then you became a?
No, I actually my first place that I worked for when I came from Mexico was Consumer Dental, to Newport Dental Centers.
Oh yeah,
former Consumer Dental. Yep.
Oh, and then you went to Western. How old are you?
When that happened, I was 29.
Oh wow, yeah.
I was young, 29. That was 30 years ago.
That's crazy. No, like I said, I mean, if you think about it, I remember it was Dr. McElroy and you. I would always, go in there, we just start talking, this and that and the other thing. And then all of a sudden one day I walked in and you were now the dentist.
Yes, yes, because I was taking my dental boards during the time. So Western Dental, it was a good place, where not only just the practice, the knowledge that you get there, and working with great dentists, in this case, Dr. Greg McElroy, an incredible mentor of mine, when he came, during those times. And actually, when he went private and I became a dentist and I had my office, he's the reason why I became a CEREC dentist. Not only he's been a great mentor of mine during when I was taking my dental boards and state boards. When I went to private practice, one day he had a broken tooth. I remember it was tooth number 18, and he said, "Hey, Daniel, can you come and prep my tooth?" Because he saw my whole journey to take my dental board, so he used to see how I used to prep. So I think that he thought, he preps good. So he invited me so I can prepare his tooth, and I think I was set up that day because
I think so too. I mean, you walked out of there with a CEREC.
Literally, I did. But when you don't know nothing about the technology, is when because it was kind of, today it's funny for me, but back then I was clueless because the CEREC specialist from San Diego, Remo, he was there. And after I prep, Remo is the one who took the impressions back then it was the red cam. And they have little compact.
Years ago.
Oh yeah, they have little compact machine. A little box, correct? And then they started, so Dr. Mac, what do you think? What block should we be using here? In I-12, I-14, A2, and I'm like, I was clueless what they're talking about. And where they were talking Emax, back then Emax was just, surging, and becoming an excellent block. And yeah, in 2.5 hours, we nailed that crown with the red.
But that was the first time you had ever
touched, a technology.
Well, that was interesting, right? Because I think one of the biggest problems back then was understanding, how to prep for something. So there was certain preps that you needed for materials, of course, but then there was the preps that you also needed to add on to, being able to mill it, let's say, right? And being able to fit it.
And I did prep for an impression, if you take any traditional impression. So Remo said, if you can modify just a little bit, but I didn't understand absolutely nothing. Why it was reason.
No, I was in the same boat. I remember Remo because I call him Don Remo from San Diego, and it's so funny because it was kind of like the same story. Like Remo would always come, my dad. So back, let me back up a little bit. Dr. McElroy. So my dad, that's how my dad, met Dr. McElroy. So he was actually Dr. McElroy's dental technician or laboratory at the time. So I used to deliver for him, and throughout the years and stuff, that's when, Dr. McElroy left and, things change and stuff like that. But then it leads to what you were just talking about. So my dad, and me, he would walk in, like Remo would walk in or the Patterson rep and kind of say, look, here's a crown, right? And my dad, it was always so funny because I always looked at it and I was like, wow, like this got milled. And so I would go to my dad and my dad, he would look at it and he's like, no.
No bueno.
No. So I would look at Remo and be like, bro, like, it is what it is, right?
but just going back to, for the people who's going to be listening to this podcast, back then I used to work for Western Dental, and you were the lab.
For Western
all
Dental.
the restorations for Western Dental.
And
it's when I met you that used to walk in with your mullet.
With my mullet.
And, it's like...
if we were that kind of a podcast, I would actually put a picture, then you would see my mullet. But you can probably go on social media and probably find a picture of me with my amazing mullet.
we were so young and
we were in the times.
And crazy because after I became a CEREC, I was using it as a lab. And I do remember when you came to the office and offered me some technology to take impressions and.
Well, we're actually skipping the middle part, right? So let's get to that point because it is 100% true. At the end there was that middle part of you sort of after Western Dental and all that stuff and your voyage. I had my voyage with with Remo and the technology and this and that, and my first. My introductory to digital really wasn't through in-lab or through CEREC. My first introductory was that we were doing business at the time with Pacific Dental Services. And one day, one of the general managers the general doctor of Pacific Dental Services called us up and said, hey, we're going to take on lava, right? And at the time, I didn't even know what lava was. You know what I mean?
Lava?
Yeah, no, but I didn't know. And that's what I thought, right? Because all of a sudden I'm like, and I'm looking, he's like, so a couple of our offices, we're going to be offering it, this and that. So I just need you to make sure that you're a certified lava laboratory. And I remember sitting in the meeting and kind of thinking to myself, like, okay, I got to find out what the hell lava is first because I don't even know what the hell that is. And they were already kind of like purchasing, their CEREC machines and all that stuff. And I remember going back and all of a sudden I started doing some research. So I called, 3M and my rep showed up and that was my first introductory to CAD CAM. So the way that they had, set up that was you were either a laboratory that would, accept the case and then it went to maybe a scanning center if you didn't purchase a scanner. And then that laboratory would scan the cases for you. And then there was a milling center. So depending on, you as a laboratory, which direction you would go, that's where you started. And so, I was kind of like, no, hell no, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna sit there and purchase anything yet. So our first venture was the impressions would come in, we would make the models, we would send the dies, and then, they would make a little lava, coping. And then, we would stack porcelain. That was back in the day when the milling, centers were pretty popular. You had a Dale Dental back in the day where they would send you the crown and a little piece of like, porcelain so that you would be able to stack on there. So that was my introductory to it. And so...
And that was already a CEREC dentist.
Yeah, you're already a CEREC dentist, but we had lost connection at that time.
Yeah,
right?
we lost connections.
Yeah,
yes.
because all of a sudden you went a different way, but we were still catering, so it was all about lava in our laboratory at the time. And it was funny because, we decided, okay, I'm going to buy a scanner because, I don't know if I want to buy the mill. I don't want to do this and that. And so what ended up happening was, the rep, we started doing these events because they had, I think it was, I don't remember exactly what it was called, but it was like a 3-eye, or maybe it was a 3-eye scanner, it was a true something scanner. And so I remember we did an event in Vista. So that's when I walked in and I was like, hey.
You threw me the invitation.
Yeah, I gave you the invitation. I personally.
Dr. Vasquez, look.
I personally came in.
I know you personally. But, it's so cool because, it's like, he goes, look, you take impression, you send it to me, I send it to them, they make a crown, they send it back to me, I send it back to you. And, I thought it was a lot. And then it's when I came and told you, look, I just send it from here to there and I get my...
No, to quote, you said, come here.
Come here.
Let's go to the back room.
Let's go. We walked and we sat, I remember we sat in front of the MCXL machine.
Yep.
And I said, you and I, we don't speak the same language, my friend.
Yeah. And so that's where it was kind of funny because I looked at you and I was like, man, I haven't seen this guy in I don't know how many years. And all of a sudden he's looking at me like, I don't speak the same language. I'm like, he speaks Spanish. I speak Spanish. Like, what language is he talking about? But we understood it at that point because that was actually really a cool story because I remember, inviting you, and that's what I thought, again, it's you looking at what your current state is. Now the next thing you know, you're in it, right? I'm in lava. I invest in a scanner. I'm thinking, okay, this is how it's going to go. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then all of a sudden you kind of open up my eyes because you said to me, yeah, we don't speak the same language. And when I looked at that, I was like, okay, so I walked out of there. But then, I then was, now starting to think to myself, I need to investigate what this CEREC, doctor is. Mm-hmm. And so that, it's kind of interesting how when you take a path in life, something happens and then you're like, oh, okay, so I go this way or I go this way. I could have walked out of there and gone, who the hell, what the, what I mean? That's what I could have said. But, I thought to myself, oh, maybe he's onto something because what you had showed me, it goes back to what Remo was showing me, right?
And one of the things, Frankie, honestly, is like, I really thought back then, because, it's a bad thinking that I was going to get rid of you.
Oh, the laboratory, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to get rid of the lab.
Yeah.
And what happens is that he comes back and Dr. Vasquez, you purchase the NLab software. And,
so I went
the scanners and everything. And then
finally I talked to Remo and I'm like, okay, bro, let's talk.
he comes back to the office. He takes me back again to the MCXL and he goes like, now we speak the same language.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think that was that moment, Frankie.
It changed everything.
No, that moment changed my life.
Yeah.
Not only as a CEREC dentist, it did change my life, and I truly believe that it was the moment that changed your entire life.
Yeah. As my thought process changed at that moment, because it's funny when you sit there and you say because we would go to like study clubs or whatever. You would hear a doctor. You would walk into a doctor's office that had a CEREC, and all of a sudden, come on, like if you really put it all into perspective. I would walk into an office and say, hey, I'm a laboratory, I want to get your business or whatever. The response is as easy as just saying, look, I have a CEREC, I don't need you, right? But in reality, they just didn't want to get solicited. That was the reality. It was just the easiest excuse, right? If somebody calls me and I don't know, and it's a spam call or whatever, I'm just going to respond, yeah, I'm not interested, I'm going to hang up. Or I'm not, whatever. So it was just the easiest response at the time. But you knew that you were still using a laboratory
Correct.
At the time because you were just using, single units. So then I think that's what the perception then became, and that's the problem. It's only perception.
And it was not that you became a in-lab lab, correct?
No, yeah.
It was the moment that when you asked me, let's do a case together.
Yeah, but
that was the moment. That was the moment that opened my eyes. It opened your eyes, and I think for me, it was just crazy that, I took impressions and we started we're pioneers of CEREC Connect. I remember that.
It's fun. Yeah.
It was a long time ago. And I sent the file through the portal, and
it was actually for one of my employees.
One of your employees.
Yeah, one of the employees, and you said, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do."
To number 15 to be exact.
Yeah, it was, and it was kind of funny too, because I remember when I went to go talk to him, and I said, "Oh no, hey bro, now we speak the same language. I got this." And I was kind of like in my journey in the beginning. I was all over Dental Town, and then I would see you be posting, and I would see the great Todd Ehrlich. He would be posting and stuff like that, and I remember Todd always being the guy that would love to help people. He was an amazing dude. And
I just was checking some videos from Vita, from the company, Vita North America, where they have their videos, and they have one video there that we recorded in DS World, where Todd is in there, and
you went to Dubai with
Dubai with him, and what an incredible man!
Oh,
what
that
an
dude
incredible
was
man.
Awesome. That guy was a stud. That's all I gotta say. Every time I do a presentation, I don't care where I go. At the very end of the presentation, I always talk because as we sit here and talk about our story, I have a story with him too when it comes to the education part. Because when we got that case, I remember that was the very first case that I had ever done with a doctor, because most of the time we would get the impression, we would be click, and then we would, design, or we would get the case, digitize it, and then, mill it, or, and then do whatever we did, right? Or, try to create a model out of a piece of wood back in the day. But it was funny because, this goes into two stories. When you send that to me, all I remember was, oh man, this is great. I downloaded it. It was like the very first Connect case that I had ever received. And all of a sudden I downloaded. When I downloaded, I designed it real quick. I milled it, I crystallized it, I stained it, I glazed it, I did everything to it. And I was looking at it going like, I need a model, because, again, habits get created, right? This is how we work. We grab this, we do that. And I remember sitting there going like, panicking for a second in my own mind, and then grabbing the crown and going, okay, let me put it in the box. I would open and close it. And I was like, and then I was thinking, you know what? But Doc, he doesn't use a model, because if he's actually designing a case, milling it, he's just using the patient. So finally I was like, well, I know the patient, so who cares? Let's close it. Let's go back. And I remember I came back to your office at the time.
You drove the crown. That was the fastest delivery ever on the crown.
Yeah, because I was in awe. I was like, wow, this is like the easiest thing I've ever seen. And then you drove it back, I gave it to you, and then you looked at me and you're like, wait, I thought you were going to take 2 weeks. I remember that like it was yesterday.
It's because it's 2 weeks. Why 2 weeks?
Yeah. Because that's the standard, right? Like
2 weeks.
It's easier to basically say, oh, Doc, you want to rush. Yeah, there's an extra fee for that, bro. But in reality, back then, the process was, for me, at least, back then, I don't, we don't accept, any impressions. But back then it was, you had to schedule the pickup, then you had to grab it, and you had to bring it, then you disinfected it, you had to put it in the computer. By the time sometimes you would, even pour up the model, it would be like, 3 days later.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so then you had to, if it was a PFM, you had to do this. And so at the end, that's what blew my mind. You know what I'm saying? That's what really blew my mind. And you said that changed my life. It sort of became my mission. I need to speak the same language with as many CEREC doctors that I can find. You know what I mean? And that basically, like you said, it changed my world. And then I remember you told me what you told me, which was, yeah, like all of a sudden, the things that you're giving me, PFMs, you're giving me this, you're giving me this digitally, you looked at me and you said, man, wait, this opens up the doors way different than, it goes past CEREC. Or not, let's not call it CEREC, because CEREC is a software, right? The workflow of Sirona at the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And Frankie, it's working that moment with you. It's, for me, it was just like the only limitation that I'm going to have is my own imagination for the things we're going to be doing. And I truly believe that happened with you the same way, because I am always, when I lecture any place, I say that you're the only man or only lab technician who can make a crown made of wood. Because you went crazy. You really went crazy, man.
Yeah. Well, but you know where the craziness came from? Like I said, it was such a great workflow. that we did that day, that to me, it sort of became my mission, right? But then there's the education behind it. And that's where Todd Early comes in, right? Into this conversation. Todd, I was on Dental Town, right? We would be posting, there was all the, all the normal people out there talking about CEREC, and they had that one forum where it was all about CEREC, and you would be posting, Scrammy, everybody, right? And I remember I was thinking to myself, man, there's no, if I was to go to, let's say, other networks, right? What happened was if I was to go to other forums, it was just a bash fest on the CEREC workflow coming from both sides, right? Doctors and it's still kind of the same way, right? But it is what it is, again, and I understand it, but to a point, right? We marry things and then we all of a sudden say, this is the best way. But what I loved about Todd was I posted something, and it was because, the in-lab software, and I wasn't going to post this on any dental or laboratory forum because they would look at me and say, why are you using that shit? Why don't you use this software, that software?
Back then it was kind of like
it was
that.
crazy.
Yes.
It was crazy. And then I remember posting something because I wanted to know, like I said, in my mind, it wasn't that in-lab or 3Shape or whatever. I didn't really care. We had the softwares, but at the same time, I was like, but my doctors are CEREC, so they speak the same language as me. So I had to learn, believe it or not, as a dental technician, I had to learn from doctors that were CEREC doctors on how to create their crowns. And I remember posting, and it's still on there. I remember posting on there, and I was like, hey, I got this problem with this case, and this thing is just kind of like poking out of it. And all of a sudden, nobody responded because it's a lab guy on a doctor forum, right?
Of course.
And everybody's like looking at me going like, okay, who's going to respond? And here comes Todd, boom. And he says, the only thing he wrote was, he says, well, just send me the file.
Send me the file.
That's all he wrote. And I was like, okay. So I uploaded the file, and it took a while, right? But I uploaded the file onto Dental Town. A couple of days go by, maybe 3-4 days. And then all of a sudden he responds with like a letter, right? It was like a letter. And he was very, he could have, listen, this is the difference between people, right? I had posted on some other forums, right? Uh-huh. And all of a sudden the response wasn't educational. The response was, what the hell are you using? You're a cowboy. You're doing this. You're doing that. Why are you doing this? How does that help anybody, right? No. Education is well. And what I loved about Todd that day was that he took the time to sort of educate me, right? And when he educated me, he basically told me what I did wrong. And all I remember was thinking to myself, well, I didn't get that education, from when I bought it because, again, it's that battle of, my software is better than your software and this and that. Listen, I got them all. I have them all. Like I'm okay. Like, do I have a favorite? I have a favorite for certain things. If I want to do this, I use this. If I want to do that, I use that. And that's it. That's the bottom line. But what I loved about Todd was he took the time. And one of the things that he wrote on there was, hey, listen, you can't be scanning 87 times. You know what I mean? Because I thought you clicked, right? It was the click, 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 click. And then he's like, no, just scan it like 6 or 7 times. Don't overscan it. Do this and that. And I remember
back
thinking,
then, less was better.
Less was better. Because what I wanted
was better.
I was like, click over here and, I got to get this part over here. It had nothing to do with the prep. But I was like clicking the underneath and doing this and that. And I remember going, and this is the second part that sort of changed my life was that, he took the time to do that. Where again, what I was seeing in other forums were just arguments, really, mine's better than yours. And what I liked about that was that I went back to my rep, which was Jeff Youngerman. I called him and I said, bro, like, how the hell am I a lab tech and I purchased this equipment, but I'm learning from a dentist? Like, where can I go as a lab guy that I could basically have this communication with?
Nowhere.
No, it was nothing. There was like,
you were in the dentist world.
Oh yeah, I was in the, exactly. I was
because
in the
you
dentist
were
world.
in a world. And I will say something, Frankie, about Todd Ehrlich, it's sharing with passion and helping others.
Yeah.
It's priceless.
It is.
It was priceless. Correct?
It was.
And
and he stood like that for years. For years, he did, and it was awesome.
And that's one of the things that I wanna talk to you, because it's beautiful to remember where we came from.
Yeah. 100%.
Because I remember that I became one of the original 30 mentors for CEREC doctors back then, and it was an honor to be part of that elite group of mentors. Suddenly, the mentorship when different.
Yeah,
took a different course of
things change.
Like everything's progressing, correct? Yeah. And I remember it when you asked me. We were going or coming back from Bensheim, and one of the trainings to the Latin America, train the trainer.
Yep.
We're training the trainers, and you asked me to join the lab world. So, but that lab it was no more a dental world.
Yeah,
is the lab world. It was emerging. It was coming. It was very, very strong. And I think, it's a statement. I think it's the best thing I've ever done, because learning from the lab technicians, it has, changed the way I think. So now I use more labs than before.
Yeah, but that's a good point, because in my eyes, again, going back and thinking and seeing posts, because you can go back to these forums and you can find things, and then you think to yourself like, wow, like, how come there was such a battle between, doctors, and there was such a battle between laboratories, when all we really wanted to do was create some kind of workflow and partnerships, back together. I mean, at the end, right, when we look at it, what happened, or how even my laboratory, grew, I again, listen, I'm not one, I couldn't care less, my wife is always telling me that I say that wrong, but that's because I don't speak English very well. I'm Cuban, so I think in Spanish, yo hablo español, so, so at the end.
He thinks he speaks Spanish.
Yeah.
He's Cuban.
Yeah, I speak Cuban.
I speak Mexican.
Yeah, exactly. But what's interesting is that you just hit it on the head. We needed to sort of join to be able to say, hey, wait a second, this has nothing to do with whether or not you're trying to get rid of your laboratory. This has to do with, in a lot of ways, the CEREC workflow sort of changed the way that you did business with your CEREC doctor.
Correct.
Right? Because at the end, yeah, it wasn't so much about, we had that story one time where you were trying to design, a case and
an implant crown.
An implant crown. And then all of a sudden I was heading to the airport, and then you called me and you were like, bro, like, I need you.
Yeah. And the reason I called you is because, the CEREC was giving me errors, and I go, patient's not in the office.
Yeah.
And, well, it's in the office, but my CEREC, I try everything, and I knew that NLab is a more powerful software than CEREC. And I go, well, and plus you're kind of smarter than me when it comes to design. Yeah.
No.
And
we're both geeks when it comes to this.
You're not going to the airport. You're designing this, and then you go to the airport.
And I'm like, bro, I gotta go. And then so I opened up the thing.
And then I got these beautiful, a design, and I go, oh, be darned,
Yeah. But that's the reality. So when people start, and again, and I'll go back to, before I was saying that, I'm not one to care about what people say online, or I don't really care. Like, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't. Like, you want to say whatever you want to say, well, then that's your opinion. That's all good. You know what I'm saying? I don't really care. It's just an opinion. It is. It's just an opinion. I like this, or I don't. Oh, you this. Oh, I don't really care. Like, it doesn't matter to me, because again, if somebody was to ask me which is the best software, I'm going to look at them and say all of them, because I use all of them and I pay for all of them. And that's all there is to it. But the reality was that the success of if you look at it, the success of where our workflows and why we became all CEREC all the time back then, and we became this and that, was because I told you, hey, I'm going to teach you how to be a dental technician. I'm going to do this. You went to Eddie Corrales too, right? He taught you, you got all this education and you became, yes, one of us, right? But it was needed because we had to show, sort of like, even when we would do events for Norbert, right? For InLab, I wanted to see a room. I wanted to see a room full of CEREC doctors, and I wanted to see a room full of InLab, and I wanted everybody to be together. But then the politics behind it actually stopped that, right? It didn't allow those two to kind of combine sometimes in certain events. And I was like, why? Well, I get it. I was sitting at an event in San Diego, in one of Remo's study clubs, and there was a lab person in there. And the next thing I know, Remo's basically like, all right, I'm going to open up and we're going to do this and we're going to do this. And there's like, almost 100 doctors in there. Me as a laboratory, Eddie Corrales is sitting there, and another laboratory was there. And out of nowhere, he gets up and he's like, yeah, you're trying to, take, money from me or whatever he said. He just got upset. I think you were there that day. He got upset.
My business away. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to take my business away. And I'm going, what? Like, how? So I get it. If you're basically, trying to move forward when it comes to, creating that the workflow of digital and trying to convince doctors and labs, hey, listen, this is the next phase, right? This is what it is.
I remember one of the lab symposiums. I was having lunch and only dentists with a whole bunch of lab technicians and one of them said, well, Dr. Vasquez, it's very upsetting that the InLab is not an open system. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not an open system? Yeah. Well, I should receive files from everybody. No, that's not the problem. The problem is that you are a closed system. What do you mean? Because you only have InLab. Exactly. No, as a lab technician, you should have InLab, you should have 3Shape, and you should have
let's not use the lab technician. If you want to go into the digital world and cater to the digital-minded doctors, you need to have X, Y, and Z.
Because you need to have all the software.
I don't need to get a phone call from a doctor and say, well, I'm a 3Shape, doctor, or I'm a this doctor, and then me say, well, because I heard it all the time. Listen, all the time I would hear it. There was a laboratory. I trained many laboratories throughout the years. I mean, all around the world, actually. We've gone to
everywhere,
all over the place. And so at the end,
many places.
And how many times did we get, all of a sudden, like, I know when one time when you were in Mexico, there was a lab, technician out there that sort of came at you and said, do you really think that your work is better than mine? And the only reason, why I know about that story is because you went first and then I went, and then all of a sudden he approached me and he knew that we were friends, and then he approached me and then he said, when Dr. Vasquez was here, he told me that his crowns are as good as mine. And then I looked at him and I said, that's in the eye of the beholder, bro. Like, it all depends on how much education he took to get to that point.
And guess what? He's a great lab technician.
He is 100%. He's probably one of the best.
And what he was showing back then, he doesn't do that because now he's in the world of CAD CAM.
Well, eventually that did happen.
I
like the haters that all of a sudden became CAD CAM.
No. That's the thing, that all the people who hate CEREC, because they hate CEREC, they finish, doing not necessarily CEREC, because CEREC is
a software.
It is a software, but it's Chairside.
Yeah.
It's for dentists.
Yeah.
It's a Chairside product.
Yeah.
I cannot compare CEREC because I really want to speak about the Chairside solution.
Yeah.
Because everybody, is bashing the Chairside solution.
Oh, right now?
Of course. Because now with the new software like CAD and all artificial intelligence, and saying that CEREC is not moving forward. And my question is, because this is my questions, Frankie. You have all the softwares, and I have all the softwares.
No, you do. Yeah, you have CAD. You have.
I have a lot. I use a lot of softwares today. Okay, yeah. But when it comes to CEREC, when I hear people saying that there's no new things on CEREC, I question myself. What do they want? what people really want and an update of the software, where CEREC is to make a single crown, a bridge, an inlay, ollie, chairside, right there in the moment, from my scanner, from my software directly to the mill machine.
Yep.
Simple, just one click,
and
you get a crown. Yep. And right now, the speed that we milling and with the prime mill, the speed that we milling, it's just crazy. The fit that we have, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
What do they want? And I don't understand.
Oh, I mean, listen. At the end, I think it's more that people want more, right? We talk about Tesla and we talk about all these other things, right? We want this. I had Fords, right? And all of a sudden, it was funny because I had Fords and I was like, look, I have Blue Cruise. I can press that button and the car goes. Then you looked at me and you said, well, I pressed the button. Mine like goes backwards, forward, sideways, and this. And I was like, shut up. You know what I'm saying? And then you came over, you're like, get into my car. And I'm like, okay, wow, that's pretty cool. But do I need all that? Right? That's the question you have to ask yourself. In my opinion, as a laboratory, you know me, right? For me, I picked the workflow. That's why my laboratory, it says, AA Dental Design, a digital workflow laboratory. That's it. That's all it comes down to. If I'm going to do an all on X, in my opinion, right? Not even my opinion. My techs, the ones that want to do an all on X, every single computer that they have all the softwares. It's up to them to choose which one
software they're going to be using.
They're going to be using. And at the end, I sit there and I think to myself, okay, well, that's their choice. I have my choice, right? I have my choice too. And if I sit there and I think to myself, no, and to be real, I also own the CEREC software. I mean, that's when I say, when I have all these softwares. When a doctor calls me up and says, hey, can you design this 6-unit case while the patient's sitting in the chair? Do you think that I'm going to design it or my techs, not me so much anymore, but but do you think that my techs are going to design it in InLab, or are they going to design it in CEREC?
Well, it should be more easy to sign it on CEREC, so they can send the RST file back to the dentist, and they just open it. They can even modify that.
They can even modify it, right? Because all of a sudden, if I'm a laboratory that claims that, oh yeah, I'm all digital all the time, now all of a sudden, I'm going to basically grab that file from that CEREC doctor, right? And when that case comes in, all of a sudden, if I design it in DXD as a .dxd, and I send it back to them, and they want to modify it, what's going to happen next? They're going to call me and say, well, hey, you know what? Can you change this? Because the midlines.
Let them change it.
And I look at them and I say, Doc, no, I understand that this one's shorter than whatever. Go ahead, open it up because I send it back to you as a .rst, and boom. That's what I call, speaking the same language and efficiency.
The same language.
Because at the end, do I think that if I was going to do a 6-unit case, right, or a 10-unit case or whatever it is, yeah, would I basically grab it and then say, for this one, I'm going to use ExoCAD, or for this one, I'm going to use 3Shape, right? Because I have my opinions of what I like to use where and when, right? And so when you go back to saying what you were saying right now, I get it 100%, but and I don't comment because again, it's an opinion. That's all it really comes down to. It's an opinion, or there's something behind it that somebody wants to sell something. Let's be real about it, right? Which is okay with me. But what I would basically say is that if a doctor calls me up, and I get this all the time, he calls me up, hey, Frankie, I'm getting into the all on X, what should I get? And then my first question is always, what do you already have? Well, I have an iTero. Okay. So do you want to send this on all on X? Here's the workflow. Right? Now, what kind of, let's say intraoral, scanner do you have? Do you have iCam? Do you have this? Do you have that? Well, I have an iCam. Okay. This is the workflow. Send it. We'll take care of it. Do you have a printer? No, I don't have a printer. Okay. Well then, how fast do you need this by? Well, I need it by tomorrow. Okay. Don't worry about it. Send it over to me. One of my designers will set it up. Next time, make sure that you make an appointment with us, so that way we know that this is happening, because my designer's probably going to yell at me a little bit, because he's going to be like, dude, you're overworking me. You'd be paying me more. What the hell? You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, I'm going to get the case. I'm going to design it, send it back to him. And then the doctor's going to go, wow, that worked. Yeah. And I'm going to say, yeah, that worked. Now take the same scenario. And all of a sudden the doctor calls me up and says, hey, I have a prime scan. Okay. I was told, I saw online that it's crap. Okay, that's fine. You can do whatever you want to do. No, let's call it what you see online. Let's only call online things that you see. Yeah, I can basically, we can basically sit there and post, oh, look, this person said this. Oh, this person said this. Well, guess what? That person might have said that because of whatever, but my laboratory does. This year, we're on pace to hit maybe 1,000 all on X's.
Wow.
Right? So if we hit 1,000 all on X's, all digital, and by the way, photogrammetry, intraoral grammetry, straight scans, Shining 3D, you can name it, they all come in and we are ready for it, right? Like we basically say, okay, I understand that workflow. Boom, let's go. Now, am I going to get on there and all of a sudden argue with somebody that says, or when we went to an event one time and all of a sudden the first thing out of the guy's mouth was, oh yeah, prime scans cannot do this. I want to go, wait a second. I got like all these cases. Check this out, right? Or all of a sudden say this scanner or that scanner. At the end, those are just words, bro. Like, to me, whenever I see something like that, it just becomes words.
Well, as a CEREC user that I am, because I use CEREC every single day, and it's my go. Yeah. I have 3 mill machines and I have 4 printers. Okay.
Oh, and you have ExoCAD.
I have ExoCAD.
You have cloud. You have
Smile Cloud. Name it. I have all the softwares. Okay. Yeah. And
I rub off on you. You know what I'm saying? That's why you're buying it. You come in, you go, oh, that's so cool. Oh man. Oh,
that's okay. So it's, and when I go online and I read everything with what people are talking about, what about CEREC, and because CEREC started the whole thing, correct? I think that what's going on is we need to help people. We need to become a Todd Ehrlich. I need to become a Todd Ehrlich.
I think so. Why not? It's about proving. And it's about proving.
And when I say
an education, that's what it is.
Become a Todd Ehrlich is follow the footprint that he put, the legacy that he left on earth that he was about to help. And I think we need to start helping people.
Yeah.
When it comes to the technology.
Because that's what we do even today, right? People come, they tell me, hey, okay, teach me how to do digital dentures. Okay, well, what do you have? Well, I have 3Shape, I have this scanner, and I have this printer. Okay. Remember, all the workflows are exactly the same. I mean, you went to a couple lectures that I did in San Diego, right? Yeah. It was back to back to back, right? It was kind of funny because one of them was for iTero, right? Another one was for true abutment, right?
Correct.
And another one was for Straumann. No, it was Straumann. And you went to all 3, right? And
was Straumann? No,
I believe it was
Zimmer.
Oh, Zimmer. I'm sorry. I apologize.
With Zimmer.
Yeah, it was Zimmer. And all of a sudden, what changed in every single lecture I did?
The name?
the picture.
Just the name.
But it was the same exact. I was like on cruise control. Well, first you scan like this, then you take this, then you do this, then and then you have to print it, and then you design it, and then boom, boom, boom. And then I look, it's kind of like that commercial where the guy go, welcome to Baltimore. And somebody goes, dude, you're in Texas, right? Because I have to basically know exactly which pictures I got to put. Because the whole workflow. I can sit there and do a course. And all of a sudden I have a room full of, let's say, ExoCAD users. I'm cool, all right? And then there's that 3Shape user. And all of a sudden they go, oh, I thought you were going to show how to do this. Well, I am. But just pretend that you're doing this part on 3Shape. Because, I got to go get this. I got to go plug it in. Yeah, dude, sorry. Like, let's just do it in ExoCAD. My goal is not to tell you which is better. My goal is to show you just a workflow. This is what you do to start. This is how you end it. And then that's that. If you want to use Sprint Ray, you want to use Hay Gears, you want to use Prime Print, you want to use whatever, because that's what because a Sega, you purchase whatever you purchase, right?
Shining 3D has incredible printers.
Yeah.
8-8 has some incredible printers.
Yeah. 8-8.
Springray.
I got 4. I got 4 8-8s.
Springray is always innovating and bringing new things.
That's the only printer I don't have. And the only reason why I don't have it is because you have 2 or 3.
No, I have 3.
Yeah, you have 3. And so I get to ask you, hey, so how long does this take? How long does that take? But I got Stratuses. I got 4 Stratuses, right? I have 4 Asigas. I have a Prime Print. I have Haygears. I have 8-8's printer. I have, I actually at one point had 4 Desktop Health. So at the end, somebody called me and asked me, which printer do you like the best? My answer is, well, it all depends on the material that I want to use.
Correct. The same thing, you see the wall that I have with all the blocks?
Yeah.
It's a lot of blocks in different colors, different shapes, different sizes, everything. Yeah. And somebody asked me why I have so many different blocks. And my answer was because every tooth, every restoration is a prescription. I don't fix everything with the same block. Okay.
It all depends.
A second molar, I might be using one kind of block. For the front tooth, I might be using a different block. Yeah. For instance, I have patients they come and they fracture a veneer, and all the veneer is made of Emax. So I need to have Emax so I can match exactly what the restoration. Correct. So I do, and the same thing with 3D printing. I have 4 3D printers, and every printer does a specifically thing. I don't use the same printer for everything. I have every printer to do one thing, different kind of materials, correct?
Yep.
And I have 3 mill machines, and definitely my favorite is Prime Mill, because I can mill everything with that baby.
There you go.
With speed like crazy speed. Yeah, but the journey that we've been going through and all these years, Frankie, and
it leads us to today.
I come to your lab and it's so impressive.
Yeah.
From that moment that you came in many years ago to today, it's just the advancement. And I see that in my practice.
I do too, because I've seen your growth as well.
If we give a message to everybody out there when it comes to digital technology, or if somebody, a lab technician, wants to get started on the digital world, or a dentist just starting in the digital world, what would be your recommendation?
No, mine's simple. I do this every day, so I already know my answer, right? So when laboratories, I'll start with laboratories. When laboratories ask me, because again, we do a lot of education here, and for people that don't even have anything and they want to test it out, and then we show them, and that's how we do it, right? My answer to labs all the time is very simple. What is it that you are doing? If the lab guy or the lab gal says to me, "Well, I do a lot of all-on-X's," okay, I'm gonna say, "Well, I think that this is maybe your best solutions are going to be X, Y, and Z," right? And then they're going to say, "Well, what about the workflow?" No, I'll teach you it's the same workflow, but with all 3 different, whatever you buy, right? I saw a post. I saw a post today from a doctor that was talking about veneers. And he posted on there, and somebody basically says, this is how it responds, right? Well, that's definitely not CEREC, right? Okay, well, first of all, CEREC is a software, the Prime Mill. That person should have put, oh, that's definitely not maybe from a Prime Mill or whatever, right? So at the end, right, that person then responded and said, no, I think that, the only mill that could do it, for this is X, Y, and Z. It was something like that. Cause I read it in the morning, your eyes are going like this. And so you're not 100% sure what you're reading, but I'm just kind of reading it and I'm like, wow, that's true. Because, we do veneers. We have we have 10 mills. Okay. We have the 5 disc changers, for the all-on-X's, we have this, we have that. And then we also have MCX5s. Because that was our first mill. And so we bought a bunch of MCX5s and we still use them till today. Like they're still running. My guy that fixes things around here, he's like a professional now, fixer, right? But my answer then becomes, okay, again, what do you want to do? Do you want a wet and dry mill? Do you want to do this? Well, this is what the options are. This one cannot do this. This one cannot do that. That's it. Well, and then I bring them in and I show them. I go, look, this is how we do this. Oh, what about digital dentures? Well, digital dentures, there's different materials out there. This printer can print this one, this one, this one. Oh, okay, well, which brand do you want to sell? Oh, I want to sell Lucitone, or I want to sell Vita, or I want to sell TrueDent. Okay, well, if you want to sell TrueDent, then you got to get a Stratasys. If you want to sell, Lucitone, then you got to get an Asiga, or you have to get this. That's the conversation that I want to have with my fellow lab owners.
Lab owners.
I don't want to sit there and say, oh yeah, no, don't get that because that's a piece of crap. No. I'm just going to say, if this is what you want to do, this is the route to go. Now, remember, a Asiga is going to cost you this amount. This is also going to cost you this amount. Well, this system cannot do this. As long as you're basically answering a question of somebody that is looking for education, in my opinion, this is only my opinion. You know what I mean? My opinion is just give the answer, because if somebody doesn't have this printer or that printer, but has an opinion about that printer or that mill, because they're regurgitating maybe something that they heard online or saw online, then you're just regurgitating and that's it, right? Give your opinion. And that's what Todd did. Todd basically, knew what he knew. And when I went to Texas one time, we had dinner and all these things, and I was doing a course. And he looked at me and he's like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting in lab, and that's why I'm taking this course, because I want to basically see what it's about, or this and that. That's what it should be out there. It should be us helping each other. So if a doctor then asks me the same question, I'm going to basically look at the doctor and ask him the same question. What is it that you're trying to do? And if the doctor says to me, well, tell me a little bit about your office. Well, my office does, single, crowns. I want to be able to speed that up. We do dentures. I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to do that. Well, there's two things that person needs: to understand that workflow and to team up with a good laboratory that's not going to all of a sudden judge, and that's going to basically be able to help that and become a partner of that office. Going back to the original journey, I can consider that I have a lot of great doctor friends these days. And when we used to hang out and have a bunch of lab owners and a bunch of that's what it was about. When we would go to these summits, when we would go to these events, that's what, Grow 3X right now is trying to create when we do those summits we have one in October.
Create a culture and a familia back again.
Yeah, a familia, but with no, again, just let's talk digital. Let's talk workflows. Let's talk what is capable of being done today.
And the reason I'm saying this, Frankie, is because, I had a case recently. A patient came to the practice and he's missing a bridge.
Yeah.
It was the teeth been prepped. And I asked the patient, how long your teeth been exposed? About 8 months. And they go, why? Well, because I paid for the bridge, but I haven't got it. Why not? I don't know. I need to go back to the office. And, well, those things don't happen in my practice because we do same-day dentistry, and the bridge is prepped the same day, and we deliver a permanent bridge. And I told the patient, you should go back, call them, you should go back so they can put, the permanent bridge. Well, I don't feel good. Oh, don't feel bad. Just do it. So a patient comes back to the office and he came with a temporary bridge. And he said, my bridge is going to be delivered in a week.
Yeah.
And I go, actually, it's 2 weeks, but it's 2 weeks. And when I was looking at the temporary bridge, to my mind, it was like, we need to help more dentists become digital. Because the quality of dentistry that I saw,
let's not use the word quality. Let's use
the technique.
The
technique that was used to create that.
There's nothing wrong with it back in the day. Okay.
Nothing wrong.
Let me rephrase myself. Right. I'm not sitting here saying back in the day. In my world, right, in my little area right here. Yes, my doctors demand things tomorrow. Right. So I'm like, okay, let's roll. You know what I mean? And when I take too long, their answer is, well, why are you taking so long? Because this is digital.
This is not a critique. I'm not critiquing the technique, nothing. I'm just like, we are in today with the most advanced that we have today. And I truly believe, Frankie, that more dentists need to become digital. Even on impression, embrace into the impressioning, digital impressioning, because I feel they're missing out, and also I think there's a lot of lack of great information out there when it comes to chairside dentistry. Yeah. I believe that chairside dentistry, CEREC, that is the workflow of CEREC or dentist workflow. It will be for chairside will be the king forever. I don't think.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we can't say the king. We can say that it was the creator. I would believe of that workflow, because eventually things catch up, right? And I'm not sitting here saying, because that's up to Dentsply to continue to, that's up to Dentsply what they're going to do. That's up to iTero what they're going to do. That's up to whoever what they're going to do.
So let me rephrase that. They're not the king, so edit that out. Okay. No. It's an incredible workflow.
It's the workflow that you can now bring in.
It's extremely efficient. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of help to understand how simple is this workflow.
I think honestly what I think is it's not. I think what you're saying, and I'm understanding it correctly, is no, honestly, what we really need to do is really educate about the workflow.
Correct.
Let the customer choose what they want their tools to be.
Correct.
Does that make sense? And also the service. And now let's throw it back to the manufacturers, right? The manufacturers they got to give good service. They have to give good education. They have to give all these things and let the customer choose because of that, right? And then
100%.
Again, if we want to put everything into perspective, yes, our journey came with a lot of mistakes, a lot of things that we did bad, that all of a sudden.
I'm a dentist. I don't do mistakes.
Okay.
I do not do mistakes.
I know. So there was things that all of a sudden we were like, oh man, I should have done that better because that didn't work out right. And then so you're going down this path. So our journey that we've seen for what, almost 20 years now, right?
Yeah.
It's been a long time. And so, in our digital world, right? Because like I said, 20 years in our digital world is going to be next year. Because I started in 2000. No, actually, my lava days went to 2000 something. I don't remember. Man, I'm getting old now. I'm just not remembering. but if we look at that journey, right? That journey was a lot of things. Like who the hell? I remember I bought an MCXL at one point because all I wanted to do was mill out a die. And that's it. I just wanted to mill out a die because one day a doctor calls me up and he goes, "Hey, that crown doesn't belong to me." And all of a sudden, we had panic, right? Because as we grew, there was now showing up more number 30s. Well, of course, right? Of course, InLab did not have the ability to put a number or a name inside or whatever. So we would always ask for that, right? As beta testers. Hey, I just want to put a number in there. So then my solution became, and then of course you would hear, yeah, but this software can do it. Okay, that's great. I wanted to be in this software. That's what I want at this moment because this is my workflow that I'm choosing to use when we speak the same language, right? And it was so funny because I remember that day because all of a sudden the doctor calls me up and I'm like, okay, how the hell are we going to be able to do that? And then I'm like, man, if I have to use my 3Shape just for that function alone, okay, well, at the time, the doctor would pick the margin, right? I would get it, but if I brought it into 3Shape, I would lose the margin. And I was like, no, I can't do that. So what I need to do is I need to take that case, design it and figure out a way that if I have 5, number or 10 or 30 or whatever number 30s,
know
who the hell this goes to. So then I bought an MCXL at the time because they came out with this wooden block of some sort and you were able to mill out these dies. So then I implemented it.
Remember that.
Remember that? It was crazy. And it would leave like a big mess in your mill. And then all of a sudden, that we would mill out all the dies. And from the dies, then we would put it into the pan. And now we knew, okay, this one goes here, this one goes here, this one goes here. But it was so funny because, again, if we would have gone with a different software, then we would have lost the margins, right? And it wasn't that the software sucked. It was just that this software had something that this software didn't have.
Yeah.
You know, and it's crazy when you start thinking about it. So what I'm saying is those are the mistakes or the thing. We don't have that problem today, right? Because now it's just, okay, this company's talking to this company. Hey, you know, go to DS Core, right? Go to DS Core, click the button, export as a ExoCAD, right? And boom, now the margin's in there. Okay, now I can use ExoCAD, from a CEREC doctor that chooses a margin. There you go. So that got fixed many years later, but we're talking back then, that was the solution.
Well, the thing is, right now, everything is so open, and but I still feel, Frankie, there's still a lack in understanding the workflows.
The workflow, period. That's all.
And
that's all it really comes down to, I think.
And if you're CEREC dentist, just keep adding a software, add a printer.
By choice, to all of a sudden say that you're going to add or you're going to change out because something is not, and then bash on it because it's not moving forward. And again, this is my opinion, and I could basically say,
I truly believe that every office should own a CEREC machine.
Yeah,
every office should own a CEREC machine. Yeah. Okay. And then just add.
Whatever they want.
Add a printer, add a software.
Well, that's what you did because that's your journey. That's
my journey. I just keep adding and adding and adding. And then I start removing hardware that is old now. It doesn't work no more. So I'm getting rid of printers. I'm getting rid of curing boxes.
I have right over there. Look, the one that's sitting right over there in the thing, that it did what it did. It's done. So now I got to basically pack it up. The one you see it, well, way over there, in the floor.
Oh, the one on the floor. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so that's exactly what you had to do, right?
Oh, that's a desktop.
Oh, yeah.
Desktop.
I've had that.
Desktop.
Yeah. I've had that thing for I don't know how many years. And now it's time.
Desktop health.
Yes.
Okay.
But as I was saying, is the opinion then becomes that no, this is now better. I'm done with this. Okay, I get it. Again, the complaints out there, I would basically say that even for me, what I learned throughout the time was I would complain like every other customer. I would sit there and look at the companies that I would buy stuff with, and I would lay into them and be like, hey, bro, like, what the hell? I just bought this. You told me that this was coming, and that's coming, and this is coming, and what the hell? How come it hasn't come out, right? But and again, things take time. But again, what people need to, in my opinion, and what I've learned throughout the years, is that we just need to learn the workflows. And customer service, I'll say it again, customer service is on them. That's where the real conversation should come, in my opinion. These companies that are basically going out there and let's say some companies are doing it through dealers, and I could basically say that I've experienced where all of a sudden, I want to buy this. Oh, you got to buy it through this dealer. Okay, maybe that dealer is not set up a certain way. And now all of a sudden I'm blaming the technology when the service is really what's not good, right? Or something. And that's where we, again, that's where people get lost and then say, well, digital sucks, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that. It's just because of an experience. You know what I mean?
Well, I will say digital doesn't suck.
No.
It's if you take my CEREC and my mills, my 3D, my cone beam, my loops, my microscope, hasta la vista, I'm retired. There's no reason for me to practice because dentistry has to be fun. It's like we...
it has to be fun. 100%.
It has to be. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes dentistry and being a lab technician is not fun.
The digital doesn't always make things fun. And all of a sudden you're designing something, you're like, what just happened here? Oh my God. Or you're trying to mill something, or you're trying to print something. I remember, again, to use the past to learn from the, move forward to the present. I remember my very first time that I tried to do a 3-unit bridge for on a lava. No, it wasn't on a lava. Sorry. It was actually, I believe it was on in lab. I'm not sure. And my mom kept walking by me. And she's like, I could have already done like 5 or 6 of these bridges, right? And then I'm like, I'm frustrated, right? Because I was like trying to do this and that. I would have been done by now. She's like chirping. And I'm going, what the? but the more I would get frustrated. And I'm the kind of person that if I can't figure it out, it's going to go home with me.
And now you go past your mom if she was still practicing, work.
And my mom's having fun.
I'll be done 5 by now, Greg.
No, but it's so funny because when you look at the whole path of our path and my path and your path, at the very end, we sit today, but you're seeing it still online. You still see it, and I just hope, like I said, I'm going to do what I do, and it doesn't matter to me. And I'm still going to, do courses, and I'm going to teach and help as many as I can and try to put, stuff like right now, we have this, right? And we also, create, like I said, I'm investing in these things because what I want is my laboratory to be able to, listen, in a laboratory that all of a sudden something comes in that I consider that you just dropped a bomb in my laboratory, right? For example, let's just say that there's all of a sudden this new scanner that nobody's heard of, right? And all of a sudden there's this new, smile design software that nobody's heard of. And then all of a sudden that doctor basically throws that on us and all of a sudden goes, yeah, well, I want X, Y, and Z. And then my tech, you can see it, right? Like they go, wait a second. Okay, so 3Shape doesn't have that. This one doesn't have that. And it's like a panic. Like it is literally a panic. I see my techs walk into my office and all of a sudden they go, I need your help. And I'm like, okay, you need my help for what? And they're like, no, because I have this case that comes with this scan body and they want me to do this and they want me to do that and I'm going, okay, but what about these softwares, right? The ones that can convert scan bodies or this and this and this. Oh yeah, it's on your computer. You also have Mesh Mixer, you got this. Like, why aren't you using that? Oh, I forgot, right? And so that's what I want. I want to be able to know that if a doctor is a Strawman, a Nobel, a true abutment of whatever it is, when they basically come to me, I want to follow that workflow. Correct. Because that makes my laboratory flow as simple as it needs to be. But when all of a sudden something comes in and they're like, oh, and then the next thing you know, man, they can spend an hour chasing down a scan body or chasing down whatever because, they don't know. And they're like, oh my God, like our libraries that we have today in our softwares, I mean, they're huge, right? Like, Real Guide, or like, for example, we have a Real Guide. When you turn that on, it just says new updates and it's just updating. You know what I mean? And then you're like, oh, okay, no. Oh, well, we changed this and boom, boom, boom. And you're like, oh my God. You know what I mean? So now I'm basically training all these people just on workflows for particular companies so that they can respond because maybe the doctor purchased something and that's my goal. And that is 100% my goal now. That's what it's converted from our 20-year, voyage. It's crazy.
It's just crazy. It's crazy how we move. Well, I have committed that I'm going to help more offices become digital.
There you go.
They have to become digital.
You are actually announcing something here.
Yes. Yes. Well, it's we've been talking about the help that the digital world needs understanding workflows, correct? I have growth with you during the years, and for me, understanding a workflow for me is normal. Yeah. Today, it's no difficult making a decision, what block I'm going to be used, what print I'm going to use, what mill I'm going to be used, how I'm going to treat the patient, Chairside. Yep. And I'm speaking Chairside. And obviously because, I have the understanding of everything, correct? And I want people to understand things how I understand it, to become simple to them, to make a decision. What should I do? Should I get rid of CEREC and buy other system or just add more technology, more software?
If they want to do that. Because there's always the labs.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Well, the lab is something that we're always going to be using because when we first started, I got trained by Eddie Corrales how to do cut, back, and layer. Yeah. And I learned that I was never going to do that. That's what I learned. That's what my takeout of the 2 days with him.
But you learned it.
I learned it.
And if you have to do it, then you do it.
I have spent many courses with you on designing all-in-4s and dentures. And every single time I come in, I said, I am going to not do it. I'm going to send it to you.
But you understand the work.
I understand the workflow, correct? So for me, taking impressions and doing the workflow for dentures, for implants, or all enforcers is so simple because I understand how it works. So I'm committed to help people how to.
That's awesome. That's all we have to do is just try to help. And again,
I'm gonna help the CEREC, the new CERECs. I want them to be efficient with their technology when it comes, to the CEREC, to the in-lab, and also with ExoCAD,
whatever,
and other, cloud-based softwares.
Let me ask you this question. So I know that you have. I think you have what, 5 softwares that you use in your office
daily.
Yeah, daily. And so for you, because you have ExoCAD Smile Create,
correct,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And you also have Smile Cloud from Straumann,
correct.
And
that's incredible software.
No,
actually, right now, the latest thing is the AI that you upload, a still picture.
Yeah.
And then the software will convert it immediately into a video, before and after video, without doing nothing. Yes, can you do that in ExoCAD? Of course you can do it in ExoCAD.
Well, differently.
But it's a lot of work to get to the point. And on Smile Cloud, it takes 15 seconds, and that creates this incredible.
But only
video.
For that little piece, right? Yeah. And so if you think about
so you do all the design. Hold on, you design everything on Smile Cloud, and once you have everything, then you export all that into ExoCAD, and you finish everything with ExoCAD. Yeah. So everything that you do, you start on the softwares and you finish with ExoCAD. I'm using facial scanners today with the Shiny 3D scanners with MediSmile, incredible. And all the information, it gets transferred to Smile Creator incredibly. Yeah. And we finish designing it on ExoCAD. So ExoCAD is a vital software for a digital office. Yep. If you want to do it yourself.
Yeah, hey, there you go. Because I'm going to add one last piece to this, because I don't know how long we've been talking now, because I should put a timer somewhere. But the bottom line is that what's really funny about what you just said is, at one point, right, you have to make that decision. So a lot of doctors ask me, we get so many cases a day. I actually had to hire a tech that all he does is design CEREC Guide 2s.
Wow.
Believe it. And CEREC Guide 3s. The only thing that we're doing is we accept the cmg.dxd. We open it up. We do our thing. We export it as an STL, and we send it back to them, right? And then they take it and they put it into their third-party printers, and then they print it, okay? So I get this phone call. And the other day, perfect example was the other day, I get a phone call and they say, and a good buddy of mine he's been a CEREC doctor for a long time, but he doesn't have a printer, and so he says, hey, look, I'm going to buy a printer. And so should I buy this or should I buy this? And I said, well, let me ask you a question. What is your plan? Right? And he says, well, I want to be able to design my own surgical guides, but I don't know if I want to use, the cmg.dxd file. I don't know which direction I want to go. So then I go, well, let me look at your file, right? And I said, Doc, you send about, maybe a year, maybe, I forgot the number. It was maybe 20, maybe at the most, or something like that really go outside of, CEREC, right? So then he said, yeah, but should I buy Exoplan? Should I buy, 3Shape, Implant Studios, Real Guide? What should I get? And I go, well, Doc, do the math, right? So if Real Guide or Exoplan is going to cost you, let's say, $2,000, right? And you only send 20 of those bad boys, well, divide 20 by what it's going to cost you yearly for this software, and then ask yourself, how much does Frankie, or AA Dental Design, charge me to actually design that for him and send it back to you as an STL?
How much do you charge?
We charge $20 just for a conversion.
It's not a brainer.
No. So do the math. So then all of a sudden I go, so Doc, it's very easy. If you all of a sudden surpass that number, okay, well, guess what? Then you should buy it. If you have the time to do it, because now you have to do it yourself or you have to have somebody else. Oh, yeah, okay. But then you got the doctors that are my buddies, like you and everybody that really, really is, I love to do it, right? Those doctors are like, no, I love to do it myself.
Well, it's not that I love doing it.
Yeah.
No. Don't take me wrong. I hate doing it. I love doing nothing. I love doing nothing. Now, be able to do it chairside, there at the office.
That's what you love. I get it.
It's the efficiency, correct? Because sometimes I might send it to you. Well, I done a few of them.
Well, look, what happened on Friday? No, hold on. Let's just go Friday.
Oh, when the patient broke the upper teeth. Yeah. We just called you, sent us the STL, and then 5 minutes after I have the STL.
And there you go.
And now it's printed.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Yeah. So
because you took our course that allowed you now to add pink.
I know how to do all that.
Yeah.
So it's simple
for an emergency. Yeah.
So and exactly. Let's go back to that. I came, I learned, and I'm able to do that, and that's what I want to do for a lot of doctors out there. Help them learn the efficient way.
Oh, I'm excited about this.
And dentists speaking to dentists, real dentists speaking to dentists. It's like. Because
let's talk about it.
The years that I have doing CEREC and CEREC and friends, I'm going to call this, okay? Because CAD becomes a friend. All the softwares becomes friends. Yeah, correct. It's InLab. InLab. It just for me is an assistant to CEREC. Things that I can do in my CEREC, I send it to InLab and I design in InLab. I love InLab, correct? Do I like that I have to send it and then open it and go and click, all that? I think it's a lot of work. That's what...
It all depends on what you're doing. Let's put it that way.
But I know
how you're integrated.
But I know I have to do that, correct? Yeah. But everything in the office is integrated and also help doctors, to set up, their office to become, efficient. Yeah. So, we're going to get that started.
I'm excited about this, because like I said, I'll help you with whatever you need. And mi casa es su casa. And we do speak the same language, en español, en inglés, lo que tú quieras.
Yeah, because it's not going to be CEREC no more. But it will be technology and smiles with Dr. Daniel Vasquez.
Oh, wow, that's cool. I'm glad to hear this. So that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited to see. But let me ask you one question before we go. One question.
Go for it.
So you had said you have Smile Cloud and then you have the Smile Create. I'm not going to ask you the golden question, which is, what do you think is better? I'm not going to ask that question because I don't want to ask that question. So the workflow that you've created, what does that look like? Do you go straight to Smile Cloud and then into ExoCAD, or that's how you do it? Yeah. Well, then that's your
simple. Yeah, but Smile Cloud is an European software. Yeah, and still is limited to the United States. Yeah. So Smile Cloud has an extension to do more. It calls Smile Cloud 3DNA. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that it is the ultimate. I'll say it is the best. But it's not available. It will soon be available in the United States, but it's not available yet. But still, you do everything there. You can print from there. But if you want to do something more than printing, then you have to move everything into
So we're about a year away, maybe?
I don't know.
Okay, so that means that according to what you're seeing is going to be the best, but then if all of a sudden another company comes out with something similar and maybe different, then we don't know who the best is. We only choose our workflow. And that's what it's about, brother.
It's about the workflow.
That's what it's about. Hey,
it's just about the workflow, and I'm for that, and whatever makes you look good in front of the patients, and to deliver the best quality and most beautiful dentistry ever. Because all we do is change people's life and smiles.
Yeah. And I think with that, we're going to go to the wineries tonight. Again, wine country here. It's Cuban night. So I'm going to be speaking Spanish wherever I go. Ching, ching, pow, ding, ding, ding. You know what I mean? But it's a pleasure, brother.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you
we'll
for
talk
the invitation.
Soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.